Hey everybody, this is Cliff and MJ from the future here. We're just here to say that what you're about to see is the beta test that's been lightly edited down of our review of Sister Wives Season 19, Episode 13.
You obviously twisted my arm that we're going to go ahead and use it.
Yeah, so we thought it was pretty good. I thought upon rewatching
it has its moments.
Yeah, it has its moments. So so even though you hear Michelle objecting to using it, she's changed her mind. So
well, no, I've just given way to the inevitable.
Anyway, so one of the things we should mention is that we do discuss things more just in opinion. Sometimes there's some speculation.
These are opinions.
Yeah.
These are not alleged to be true.
Right.
We're just, as one of my favorites, Cozy Gamer Mom says, we just like to snark on people who are living their lives publicly.
Yeah, choosing to do that. So, that's part of the entertainment. So we're speaking back to it.
We watch these other reactions. And as I said, I'm not working now. I'm kind of retired. And I have nothing better to do with my time. So I fall down rabbit holes and find out what I can about them. But I am no expert. Yeah. We do not know these people. We probably have made mistakes. I may have said something that I believe to be true, but somebody else has more information that tells me I'm wrong. So that's fine. Yes. And we would love to hear feedback because this is obviously very rough. Yeah. This is obviously not something that we've done before, and I clearly do not like to be on camera. So if you found anything of value, I hope you'll give us a chance going forward. We might experiment with a couple of different styles, ways of doing this to see what works best. Right now, I really feel like he is the Nikki Haverstock and I am the John of the couple, which, hey, that's not too bad. They're great. So anyway, thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. And I hope you will see us again. Yeah, so what follows is our review of that episode, and we'll talk to you at the end. Bye. That won't work.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, welcome to Digression Girl Talks About Sister Wives with your host with the most, Cliffy.
And Michelle. So just a little bit about us. We started watching Sister Wives in the summer of last year or so.
Summer 2023.
And
because of YouTube, it sucked us in on all those drama reaction channels.
Yeah, you were watching some other reaction to something else, and you
Colleen Ballinger stuff, I think.
That might have been it.
And then we were watching Swoop, and then somehow something else we were watching went into Sister Wives. Then we found Gwen's uploads on YouTube, and she was so charming. It made me like, okay, we're gonna have to watch and see what the hell it is she's talking about, because we don't watch reality TV.
Yeah, so I'm going to be upfront. This is not, I have a lot of strong opinions about the show, but generally, I am being honest here. I do hate the show. I hate that it exists.
We hate watching.
I'm just letting you know. Like, I think that this is like, and we'll get into this because I'll explain as we go along.
Every one of you out there who's married and watches this with your husbands, listen to this schlemily all the time, and then when you're doing things that have nothing to do with Sister Wives, they pop up with an opinion. They know all the lines. He knows episodes better than I know them.
That's because I have a good memory.
I have a good memory.
I know you do.
I just do lots of things while I'm watching TV at the same time.
Right. So we're just jumping in. You guess what you get? You get the experience that we got, which is we're just jumping in at halfway through the story. So if you're a fan of Sister Wives,
it's like already on the end.
Yeah, it's towards the end. But
we did go back and watch everything.
Yeah, we
watched like start with season 18 because that was what was showing, and then I'm just like, well, I don't know what the hell's going on here. So I went back to the beginning. I'm retired, so to speak, and he works from home. So I was just watching while he was in his office.
Right.
But sometimes I'd watch in the evenings, and we were watching more and more of the reaction videos. And he just got sucked in.
Yeah, I'm sucked in. I'm
beyond. I hate reality.
I'm beyond the event horizon of this show. I'm already in the gravity well of the black hole that is the abyss of Sister Wives.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this is definitely a source of shame because I have almost as a religion not watched any kind of reality TV since the mid-90s when I decided this is the way the world ends.
Right. We'll get the Game of Thrones shame bell. Shame.
But you know.
So
we pretty much hate watch it.
Yeah. So you get, if I'm not gonna recommend per se Sister Wives, but if you're only semi familiar with it, then we're gonna be pulling some deep cuts here, and we'll also try to reference other producers or reaction videos, I should say, from other
folks. There are some excellent creators out there, and we know that we will never get anything like their viewing levels, but they're so good. They're so good. Some are horrible, but some of them are just like
and there are also like, that's funny. The funny thing, reflecting on this, there's like the people who are like, the creators that we really like, and then there are the necessary evil creators who we're getting like some of the inside scoop. We're not going to name names yet.
Mainly because of shame. But the thing is, some of the like horrible creators, they're just not good people. They do on occasion have like some really good like research skills. So if you do watch them, do not believe everything that they tell you. Oftentimes their interpretation of facts is off the wall. It's like this is more of your psychosis than it is of their psychosis.
Right.
But there are things that they have bothered to go and verify that you can verify. So it's sort of like, well, I don't feel like looking at it for myself.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend anybody who has a vendetta.
Right. This is the era of fake news and misinformation, and it's always been there, but now especially, America and the rest of the English-speaking world, we really seem to be, prone to it. I guess it's everywhere now.
There are corners of YouTube that are obviously still locked in that high school mentality, and then like the creators go to war, and it's like, you know what, that's boring. That's boring.
So we're gonna start with our review of the latest episode as of today. It's Sister Wives episode 13 from season 19, episode 13. And we start out at Lakai, which is a restaurant of sorts. And
you wrote down Lecoq.
The autocorrect was not the best on this. Okay. So Mary goes out to have a lunch or a brunch maybe with a couple of friends, Hillary and Andrea, who are new. So it's nice sort of getting some new characters for a change. We're going to be interrupted by our cat. It's just the way it goes. You'll hear her meow, 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 and then she'll just finally jump up after a given number of meows. So,
maybe.
But anyway, so Hillary, that's the blonder one, and then Andrea is the brunette. Andrea actually has lived plural marriage and was a polygamist, whereas Hillary just grew up in a polygamist family. So the first thing Andrea asked is whether or not Mary's had sex with any other men, although she drops the F-bomb. Drops the F-bomb, yes. And so it's basically a 6-month check-in since not the actual divorce, but when they left.
These are the ladies that went with her when she went to request her release from the AGB, which is good, because I was worried that word's a strong word. I thought she'd gone by herself, so I'm glad to know that she had support there. This really kind of goes back to, I can't remember the season. It was right before I think they moved to Arizona, when Cody was saying that Mary's got these great relationships, these great friendships, these great business relationships, and he just doesn't understand why she can't have them with the family. And the reason she can't have them with the family is he doesn't want her to. He talks a big game about, I want them all to be friends. But the minute two of them start to get along, he starts screwing around with it. Because he maintains his power through nobody talking to each other.
Right.
And him talking to everybody.
Yeah, and so this is why when people call polygamy a cult or, cultish or whatever you want to call it, and this is something this is something that I've been grappling with. I didn't grow up in a cult per se, but I think I was victim, or my family was victim to a cultic behavior or cultic movement, and we'll get into that at some point maybe, but not this episode. It's just too much. But you notice that idea of like isolating, like Cody is isolating Mary, or he doesn't like that she's suddenly branching out and having other people, and that was always the risk with Mary because she only had the one child, right? And as soon as
she talked about, I think it was episode 1, season 1, that it's hard, and there were times that she thought about leaving, but she had a commitment to her faith and a commitment to the family and a commitment to Mariah.
Yes. Now Leon.
Leon.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, we don't want a dead name. Right. And
I was quoting. So.
Yeah, of course we're respectful, but yeah, I mean that's the thing is like you know, it's funny because Mary sort of had that. She was positioned in a lot of ways to leave way earlier than everybody else. Yeah. But mentally, she was still pretty well locked into this polygamist mentality, ideology, etc. Because she grew up in a plural family.
She wasn't in a plural family when she was born, but they became a plural family, I think, theoretically, when she was around 5, and then I think they had a sister wife who came and went, and then by the time she was 12 was when she first had her first sister wife sibling. But also, they're coming from this mindset that, and I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it comes from all the Mormon sects, including LDS, that you want to have, you've got these spirit babies and you need to make them come out here, and then you'd have them in your celestial kingdom. And it's just even stronger in the fundamentalist sects. And she had secondary infertility. She wasn't able to have more than one child. So she was already feeling less than, because the other two were just like, had no problems getting pregnant. So you throw, she's sort of feeling less than. She was a wallflower who felt like she got picked by the, the king of campus, because he was so cool and she was so not. So there was that aspect of it. And she talks about, they've gone through medical and homeopathic and whatever fertility methods to try to get her to have more babies. And I am here to tell you, and any woman who's experienced IVF will tell you this, those hormones, they make you incredibly cranky and difficult to be around. And even though I went through this with a previous marriage, and even though like rationally we kind of knew this, it still didn't keep it from being any less horrible. And they wouldn't have at that time, because they were so, especially Mary and Christine, were so sheltered, they wouldn't have known that. It would have just been a personality failing. So you add that and the fact that she would be desperate to stay in Cody's good graces because she's not giving him babies. She was the perfect one for him to weaponize against the other two, until Robin came along. Robin to me is like Mary 2.0. And she became the wife that he weaponized. And where he would turn the first 3 against each other, he was forever hitting the other 3 with, you're mean to Robin, you're mean to Robin. Whether Robin was saying it or not, it didn't matter. She may have been, she also may not have been. He still would have used it that way. And he continues. He's the only one who blames Robin for anything. I have never heard any of the other ones saying it's her fault. They've said that since she's been around, or the way, he treats her. Her biggest fault, honestly, is not saying, hey, this is not how you do plural marriage. You need to go to these women's houses. You need to make sure you're seeing your kids. She's kind of doing that now, but that was her fault. But he's the one who knew better. He chose to take everything as a slight against her and blow it up and never let it go.
Yeah. And Cody's paranoia and Cody's, basically he's like the Energizer Bunny. You just like can't turn him off for a second to get him to chill out. But there's the thing that Cody and Robin have in common is this control issue. And we'll definitely get into Cody. Interestingly, this is a relatively Cody-free episode where we only get Cody's reactions. We basically see him head out the door, and then the rest is just confessional, talking heads, what have you. So anyway, back to Lakai. Andrea, she and they start discussing, and Hillary and Mary, they start discussing Cody's continuously delaying letting Mary go and telling her straight up, this isn't working, you should go on, you should move on. And Andrea says that Andrea identifies that Cody only wanted Robin.
Yeah, she says, from the moment he entered the family, Robin entered the family, he only wanted her. He wasn't interested in the others or in you, Mary.
Right, exactly. And she also says that Cody and Robin were made for each other, MFEO, to use the Sleepless in Seattle. And,
they're 13.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, I mean, in a very cosmic karmic sense, that's probably also true. And for whatever reason,
they deserve each other.
Yeah, they're made for each other. In that sense, yeah, that was sort of my take on that. But then of course they flip back to Cody reacting. The editors are doing a good job of like showing what is happening on the one hand, Cody reacting, and the people who have been watching a lot of this show are like, you can immediately say, oh, Cody's lying about that. Cody's not telling the truth about that.
Yeah, honestly, the editing has gone downhill this season for a lot of different reasons. But there are bad ways in that everything's all over the place. They cover 4 months in a single episode, and then one day in 7 episodes, kind of thing. I'm exaggerating for effect.
Yep.
And it's a lot more choppy, and it feels more curated than the previous ones. However, whatever's going on with the production company, whatever grace that Cody and Robin had been given in the past, that's gone. That's done.
It's totally out of there.
Thank God.
And so there's this whole discussion. So the reaction that Cody gives is, when it comes to Robin, my attitude never changed. I never favored Robin. So his attitude towards the other wives never changed. So it's like,
because he's the king of wishful thinking.
Yeah, he's just like, come on, bro. I mean, we see you just go out and, it's obvious from all the wives have said that he spent more time with Robin. And then during the COVID lockdowns, he spent all his time with Robin. And whatever it came down to when it came to, we suspect that the COVID rules that Cody keeps on talking about are production rules. So like basically
there was like a rumor of it. I'm not sure how true that was.
Yeah, that's the speculation, is that's why Cody had all these extra steps and all of that. And I'm sure he got it wrong, because the guy's not exactly what you would call detail oriented.
I don't think we actually are on the same page on that.
Okay.
Because I think that there were no rules other than I get to stay with Robin and the rest of you guys have to do what I say. And I'm paranoid about losing Robin, and I'm paranoid about losing, Ariella and Saul. So, if you're going to put them at risk, then I can't have anything to do with you. But really, that was just, instead of being like Typhoid Mary, he's like COVID Cody, because he thought it was okay that he can go everywhere and see all of the families and not wear masks and stuff. And it's like, dude.
Yeah.
You just become the carrier.
Yeah, he was not very bright when it came to that whole thing.
He just found a way to do what it was he wanted to do, and
pretty much.
Yeah,
and it's just, and him constantly referring to the COVID rules. By the way, this is something that we're especially concerned about. Like we still have not had COVID, which thankfully, knock on wood, masks work and all of that. But so when Cody is going out marrying other people, when performing wedding, and we do have to make that distinction because we're talking about polygamy all the time.
Or when the big goodbye in 2017.
Sure.
Was it 2017 or 2018? Whenever it was.
Yeah.
That McKelty forced. Like Cody and Robin and their kids were like lined up on one side, and then Janelle and Christine and Truly and some of Janelle's kids, and Cody was going to hug Truly goodbye, and Ariella wanted to, and she came forward. It's like, no, only me, because of COVID. So he goes, he hugs Truly, and then he goes back. It's like, dude, if Truly did have COVID, you just could have picked it up and taken it back, and vice versa. You could be the one giving everybody the plague.
You must be talking about 2021. You said 2017, 2018.
And I said episode 17.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I'm not episode, season 17 or season 18.
Got it.
If I said 20, it's because
it's all right.
A lot of Benadryl, so.
Yeah.
And we're not going to ever air this,
so
it does matter.
Yeah. So anyway, Cody's saying that he never favored Robin. It's just ridiculous. It's just another, like, the guy, he might believe that, but it's only because he's told himself the same lie over and over and over again. So Hillary asks Mary if Cody misses her, or vice versa. I couldn't remember. I just say Cody misses Mary. So I think that's probably the case, is that she says that.
I think she says, like, the time's going to come when he's going to miss you.
When he's going to?
Yeah, and then one of them said it may have already come, which I agree. I think So, these are not the first people to say this, but a number of people said to Mary, he's going to regret it. He's going to come to his senses. He's going to understand what he lost. And some people are taking that as they're like, and so hold on.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what they mean. For one thing, everybody does that when their friend's relationship breaks up. But I think what they're saying is, you're not the problem here. Cody's the problem here. The day will come when Cody recognizes he threw away a lot. that he didn't need to throw away. When he does miss knowing that he's got your support, or that you'll go take this trip with him that the other one won't take, or whatever the issue is.
Kind of a romantic idea
And
that someday he'll.
He cannot continue to claim that he never loved these other women, but then piss and moan about losing his big picture because he's the reason it's gone. He couldn't play nice.
Yeah.
He did not want Mary there. He actively tried to get rid of Mary, and frankly, he actively tried to get Christine to just back off and leave him alone. But I think his fantasy was, well, you're not having babies anymore anyway, so technically I shouldn't be having sex with you anyway. And that's how it happens in our culture. Once your uterus is retired, you're no longer going to be in the active rotation, and you chicks should just accept that and keep, worshiping me. And they didn't do that. I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I did make a note here about, the whole idea of not just like polygamy so that there are some kids, but it's this idea of polygamy plus fecundity, like fertility, having lots and lots of kids.
At the end of the day, it's still a fundamentalist Christian religion. So their belief is still, pardon me, you should only have sex for procreation. If you know you will not procreate, there's no call for you to be having that sex.
Yeah. So Hillary asks about Mary's relationship with Robin, and apparently Mary is still in contact with Robin, and but I think she's the only one of the wives who is still in contact with Robin.
Oh yeah.
So they talk dating. Mary's self-conscious about her age and, whether or not, she would find somebody, and they're hyping her up, saying she's still sexy, all of that. And then Mary tells this story that somebody, we think it's Nathan, tells her that it's like bleach and ammonia that between Cody and Mary. And
No, that's not what they meant. The analogy was, it's like bleach and ammonia. Separately, they're great. Together, they're toxic. And I think what they were talking about was Cody's fine and Robin's fine, but put Cody and Robin together and it's a toxic mess.
Okay, I thought it was Cody and Mary, but maybe that's the case. But
I don't know.
But yeah, it was hard to tell because, and I probably would have named it if it was in there, but I think
somebody said it to her.
Yeah, I think that together, the message that they were both kind of trying to drive home is that plural marriage, and they get into this. They say plural marriage isn't great, and then Mary drops this, which is that Cody says the only reason we lasted as long as we did is because of plural marriage, which is basically another way of saying
I'd
for those.
Left your ass.
Yeah, I'd have left your ass. Like, this is we sucked as a couple. Blah blah blah. Again, just another like twisting of the knife because he continues to do that. He couldn't just say, I'm glad we shared this commitment to each other and that we bonded over this. No. It's the only reason why, again, he does not think about what he says and how it can be taken to hurt somebody's feelings.
Boy who broke up with his girlfriend and now he has a new girlfriend, and he's like, well, I thought that I loved her, but I didn't. I only love you. Well, you better only love me. He does revisionist history. I don't know what I did with my phone.
That's okay. I've got it. So, because I'm taking the notes are here. So, it's our first time.
And you'll never see this.
So Andrea says, we shouldn't be hiding how we feel. Polygamy taught me to be fearful of what I felt, which is just, that just it just breaks my heart hearing that. And then Hillary says, I'm not good at expressing myself. And she goes on to say, I've never seen polygamy work. I don't know anybody happy in polygamy. And she talks about her dad, or her grandfather maybe, having 85 grandchildren. And that is like really hard. I mean, you've talked with me about your issues with fertility. We don't have kids. And just thinking about like, there are people like Cody Brown or, Hillary's grandfather, just all of these polygamous sect leaders or just families where it's just like, just like, when is it enough? When is enough that you're just going to be like, okay, that's it. And actually think about this combination of like, okay, the kids make me happy. They're happy with each other, but also they deserve their own happiness. So I need to stop enough so that I can like respond to them, help them develop emotionally, all that stuff.
It's like collecting all the Pokemon Go that
Yeah.
you can, and then just like leaving them in whatever
Yeah,
state Pokemons exist when you're not paying attention to them.
it's just this weird obsession and mentality. And you would think with if polygamy were actually working, that Utah would be the most populous state right now. But clearly it's not working. People are breaking off and stuff like that.
But
So
they're also shipping people out
yeah, but
to spread the
yeah, they're trying, but then what's happening is people are winding up leaving the Mormon faith or whatever branch or what have you. So so anyway, that was my deal on that. Is just like it's a little bit of this obsession about having as many kids. Like everybody's an Elon Musk, where oh I got to have a bunch of kids. It's like what are you doing, dude? And of course it's a guy mentality, and I get that. And there's sort of like the whole evolutionary thinking, like well I can't, in the back of a guy's mind, right? Theoretically, they're going to be like, well, I can't know that this kid is mine, so I need to continue having as much sex and having as many kids and all of that. And a guy can do that. Women can only have so many kids because every pregnancy is a risk to their health. So, but nowadays, I mean, that's a great from like an evolutionary perspective about why, brains may or may not have a little bit of wiring towards this or that. But nowadays, you can just throw all that out. We got DNA testing. Okay, this is my kid. This is her kid. This is blah blah blah. I know that she didn't or whatever. It's all just a big Maury Povich thing where we actually can have answers. Okay, even if you go on Maury Povich, you can get answers. So but what was interesting too was this whole idea about scarcity because it's almost built in where if you're going to have if you only have one guy and you have multiple women and all of those women are having a bunch of kids, there's just not enough time and not enough money and not enough anything to go around. So everybody is like strung out. Nobody is. I think it was Andrea saying her grandfather, or maybe it was Hillary, never had enough sleep. Her dad. Okay.
The one who didn't go into polygamy, her dad never never had a full night's sleep because right. When you have that many children,
right.
It's not gonna be just like little Susie had a nightmare. It can be like little Susie had a nightmare, Johnny had a nightmare, Mary went to bed, and so was sick.
And you're just constantly in survival mode as opposed to like a manageable number of kids.
I feel like we're just narrating the show. I mean,
it's okay. Like we're going over it, but to me it's like a larger issue with like why, like I do want to talk about like why is polygamy not working. So okay, so this does lead me to a thing that I want to talk about with this show in particular, and why this is a terrible example of polygamy for a couple of reasons. And just like sometimes I like to take a high view, a 10,000-foot view, where what is not said in this show is financially how hard it was. The last time we have seen the Browns struggling financially in any serious way, like I know this season has been all Coyote Pass and whatever, but the last time we've seen them struggling in any financial way was season 1. Period. The rest of that time, they have just had TLC just shoving tons and tons of money towards them.
Yes, but I mean, they did go through that patch where they almost lost the show right before they moved to Arizona.
Yeah.
And so Cody negotiated like almost a fatal reduction in pay.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, that let them hang on long enough for everybody to be like, oh my God, this is a whole shit show.
Right.
And now everybody's tuning in. So now they're making bank again. And I really honestly hope they make a lot of money on season 19. And then I hope they do a special to wrap everything up and to honor Garrison. And then I hope they go away.
Right.
Because first of all, I hate reality TV. But also, you don't have to watch reality TV to know how destructive it is for the people who are on it. Because we get all those news reports. And if we as fans are invested in the human beings in this, then why would we want them to go from one to... I don't want to see a Janelle and Christine spinoff. And how could you do that? One lives in Utah, the other lives in North Carolina. Yeah. If they want to do it every few years, where are they now? And have a little reunion, fine, whatever.
Yep.
But one of the best things I can say about this family is they did not raise those children to believe this is a way to make your living. All those kids go to college, out of the house, find your own way. Those kids didn't get paid, which is terrible, but we're not going to see like Logan and Michelle having their own show, or Peyton on 15 episodes of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. They've encouraged those kids to find a way to have their livings outside of reality TV, and I want that for them too. Because if Christine is going to be happy with David, it'll not be because they're starting a reality show. That will just screw things up. Right. I want them to go and be happy.
I want that too for all of them. But one of the things that was interesting is like the people who, like Logan, who's the oldest, and we haven't seen, and as specifically seems to have like said, don't include me in events like his own wedding, for example. But he was the one who was the oldest and remembered how hard those times were. Whereas
a lot of those kids see him as their father parent.
Yeah, because he was there and he was the one doing the work. Whereas the economic thing, and he was also there for the economic dire straits, right? And when you see the drama of like the car breaking down in the middle of a move, every time they took a trip, it's just like, oh, okay, they didn't have any money, and they had all these extra kids, and basically we're taking the kids to like a polygamous school. So that gets me to my next theme that I wanted to talk about, which is notice that we have only this is all about a faith, about an ideology of polygamy, and how this is a testimony from God. That's the thing. That's the subtext of the show. But what's not in this show ever until this episode? We've seen it one time. Is them going to a church. We saw them go to a church, talk to a pastor.
Oh, you're talking about the youth group thing.
They were gonna.
We've seen them have church a couple of times.
Yeah, we're not counting
early
that.
Seasons.
Yeah, we're not counting that. We're talking about like they moved to Las Vegas.
They moved to Vegas, and then they did talk to a Presbyterian.
I think it was Presbyterian. Yeah,
because they were looking for a group of kids for their kids to meet and form a community with, who they felt would have kind of the same kind of moral integrity and because they're coming in sort of like this Christian background.
Right.
And Christine was highly against it, and I think so was Robin. I think Mary and Janelle were like, yeah, this will be great.
Yeah.
So now they have totally lost their religion. They don't even pretend, at least Cody doesn't pretend to be
especially Cody
anymore.
Yeah.
Well, because Cody got told he abandoned his wife, and he didn't like that. And Cody, I'm sure, saw himself as someday being, the prophet himself, which is why he gave a darn about, Christine's pedigree. And even Robin's kids. Christine is the first cousin to Robin's kid's bio dad.
Yeah.
So those kids and Christine's kids, those are part of that same lineage.
They're genetically related.
But it seems to mean very little to anybody other than somebody like Cody, who doesn't really understand how it all works. But he wanted to be a leader, and instead of that, he wanted to save polygamy, and instead of that, he kind of ruined all of that, and that's why he's bitter. Christine had that epiphany that people who are brought up in subjugation have, of like, I don't have to believe any of this shit.
Yeah,
she's out. But Mary still believes enough that she felt the need she needed to get a spiritual release.
Right.
Janelle still says that she would live polygamy again. So it's really Christine who's just like gone. Most of the kids do not buy this stuff. And it's been Robin becoming more and more religious while Cody's becoming angrier and angrier, and holding their kids hostage.
Mm-hmm.
It's not right.
So, yeah, I mean, all of that's the fallout, right? So so that's the effect. What's like some of these, I like trying to pull out like, what are the causes? What's going on with this? I'm trying to like figure it out, because this has been my life because I grew up with not a fundamentalist.
You want the reason
Mormon.
Why they say they're doing things.
I need to understand. I need to understand. And this show is that there's a lot to unpack with this show, because you got a lot of people, but there's also like a lot of selective editing. And part of what made the show initially kind of of interest to people is that it was targeted towards this community a little bit. But at the same, whereas Big Love, you see inside the compound, right? You see the Harry Dean Stanton,
the UAB, no, the UEB, the
EB, whatever it is, the compound with the Harry Dean Stanton and the Prophet and all of that. really, you get to see and live that in that fictional show. But here in this show, have you ever met a church leader? Have you ever met the prophet? Have you ever met anybody on the board?
No, they don't want to have anything to
They
do on
don't.
the show.
Yeah, what we see is we saw for a little bit, like some of the earlier seasons, Kristen Decker, is it, and
Kristen Decker.
and other people who had escaped polygamy, and they showed that side of it, and they showed the anthropology students.
But that was, that was one of the selling premises of the show, is that this was not going to be about a series of debates on the validity of the religion.
So they had some, but they did have some of that to at least show you like a little bit more, try to peek behind the curtain a little bit. But we never see the church itself. We never see that.
Well,
in fact, we
will in a Mormon anything.
Right, but we don't talk to a church leader. We don't talk to any, but we see other people who are living polygamy, sort of, but only as side characters. Like we had that one regular Christian guy, not a Mormon Christian. I say regular. I mean, let's face it, Mormonism is a very unique offshoot. Mainstream, whatever. So we saw that one guy, and we saw the bald guy with the three wives. Darger. I was going to say Duggar. I'm like, that's not it. Yeah, Joe Darger and his wives.
And they're not part of actual religion anymore. They're considered independents.
Independents,
like Brady, that Brady Williams guy too.
Yeah, but probably still, using the Book of Mormon as as a text, right? But other than that, like, are we seeing any other AUB members? No, a lot of X ones, except maybe Nathan. But Nathan
is still.
Yeah.
Is he though? I mean, he had a wife leave him. Nathan's married to one of Mary's sisters. Nathan had a wife leave him, so Cody talked to him a lot about that idea of a divorce while you're a polygamist. I don't know that there might be two wives. I don't know if he was a 2-wife or 3-wife guy.
Right. But we don't hear a lot about Joseph Smith. We don't hear a lot about Brigham Young and the fallout that happened with those wives, quote unquote.
You don't hear any of that. When they do talk about it, it's like they reference the founder.
Yeah, which is.
When they do, there was one episode where they went to, the kids were checking out East Coast colleges, which I don't know why, but they did one of these, it's like, if you go to Massachusetts, a lot of times you go to Salem and you'll see all the Puritan stuff and the witch places, and it was sort of like that, but I guess it wasn't. No, it was more like they were looking at those kinds of, they were at like one of those, like a Salem tour or what have you, but they would throw things out like, well, what about polygamy? We're polygamists, and that was just freaking Cody.
Yeah, he's always saying, "Hey, I'm a polygamist" in those early seasons.
Yeah,
and
but then when they do those kinds of episodes where they go to something historic that's either not from polygamy or is, but is still like a religious kind of connotation, they'll have some conversations about how a lot of people think polygamy is X, like the Warren Jeffs group, or they think polygamy is Y.
Right.
But it's usually not a simple equation.
Yeah, that's part of what is some of the packaging. I think they wanted this to appeal both to people who are polygamy or polygamy adjacent, because a lot of people in polygamy, they're not going to be watching this because they thought the show was not presenting an accurate thing, which it's not,
or they thought the show was profaning something that was sacred.
Right, exactly. But I mean, how sacred can it be if you need plural wives, but you need to have 13 of them, or 7, or however many?
It's a sacred commitment, because when all the angels in heaven had their big fight, all of the souls, because they believe in this pre-existence,
right?
Were, a lot of the boy souls decided to side on the wrong side, so they all got kicked out of heaven. So now you have a disproportionate number of female souls and male souls. So while everybody has a soulmate, but those women whose men went with Satan, they lost their soulmates.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to marry these women so they can go to heaven, because the only way to go to heaven is to have that committed relationship and be called there by your husband. Women can only get to heaven via marriage.
Right. So that's a whole story that they tell, and that explains it. And it's weird. So they do talk about survival mode. I do think that it's very telling how much they go from like these desperate straits in the early seasons to, okay, we got to find a way to make some money. So the first thing they try is My Sister Wives Closet.
I mean, I have to say, all of them have a really strong work ethic. Saving Robin, she doesn't.
Yeah. She did on My Sister Wives Closet, and as soon as that failed, she's like, whatever.
Part of the reason why it failed is because she just wasn't doing the deal. She wanted everybody else to do her work, and she's too pretty to cook. She's too pretty to clean.
Right.
But the OG 3 wives, those are the original wives, they hustle.
Yeah, absolutely.
All hustle. And the kids hustle. The kids are out there working. And whether we agree with their choice of working in MLMs, I mean, that's a whole other discussion, right? But
yeah, I did want to get into
MLMs are super big in Mormon communities.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, LuLaRoe is Mormon based.
It's almost like polygamy is one kind of MLM.
The women need to bring in money, but men really don't love them, especially in the fundamentalist groups, really don't love them working outside the house. So an MLM works. They don't have to necessarily work outside of the house. They can just have little like Avon parties, but only for leggings,
right?
Or whatever, Tupperware parties, but for weird diet drinks.
Yeah,
there's a reason why MLMs are big in that community.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that Mary has these instincts of doing the LuLaRoe, doing the bed and breakfast, things that are financially keeping her separate from Cody, but she was very locked in longer than anybody else into the ideology that kept her with Cody long after he stopped. Now, granted, I think she does love him, and I think that it was very hard for her to pull away. So congrats to Mary on doing that. But that being said, in terms of like also, on paper, right?
From not just her emotions, he was her first love. Mary and Christine were very sheltered. They didn't date. They don't have a lot of experience of having more than one person they fall in love with. And frankly, neither does Cody in some ways, but that's just because he's a jerk. But for Mary specifically, Christine lost her religion in this. Mary did not. Yeah. Mary made a commitment, and it's old-fashioned, but we all used to make a commitment that till death did us part, until we decide till death or until you annoy me too much do we part.
Yeah.
So for Mary, it wasn't just her secular marriage. It was she truly, and still does, she believes that living through polygamy is the way of righteousness.
Yeah.
When I said I was going to be married with you through eternity, I meant it. Yeah. I meant everybody believes the rich and good and health. Everybody wants to run away from the poorer and sickness and whatever. Mary believed the entire, and still believes the entire vow. So if that's who she is, and she believes that this religion is the right way, she either has to settle for knowing she'll be miserable in this life, and then she'll get to die and go to heaven and be miserable, being second fiddle on Cody's planet of what have you. So she got a release. And right. That made Cody mad for a bunch of reasons, not just because it was for abandonment, which he insists he didn't do, even though he did. But he knows, he needs 3 wives. He was willing to get rid of Mary because he still had 3 wives. And then Christine went and she just threw a monkey wrench into all of that and said, I'm out. So now Cody doesn't get to have his own planet. Cody gets to be the night manager at the Celestial Arby's, the crappiest part of the universe. And all of a sudden, he deserves it.
And all of a sudden, after he loses the 3-wife Monty, the 3-wife hat trick, then all of a sudden he suddenly stops believing as much as he used to.
Oh yeah, as soon as he gets told, well, we gave her the release because of abandonment, and I doubt that the prophet said this, but the prophet's daughter did say outside of talking to Cody that he'd give all 3 of those women releases. He's screwed. He doesn't get to be the king of a planet. Like I said,
Christine's had sex with somebody else, we presume, after that wedding.
Robin apparently was wrong about that. What happens is if you don't get the release and you have sex with somebody else, you're still tied to Cody, but not. This is but not at that same. Cody's the king of this planet, and then the wives are the queens, right? Unless the wives have been unfaithful, and then they become servants in the celestial planet to Cody.
There's always an out.
Now Christine doesn't care.
Right.
If Christine still believed her religion, she would have gone to get a release. Personally, I think she could get a release just to screw with Cody's head, because I am a vindictive and mean person, and he's a piece of garbage.
Right.
But that's what unless he. So he still has technically 3,
Right.
Right? Because Christine did not get the release, and Janelle's apparently at this point not ready to get a release. So Janelle's probably fine because Janelle's not with another man.
Right.
You know,
right.
so he can still count her. She'll still be a queen, although of course she'll be, you know, under Robin, as we all are. Now Christine's going to be Cinderella in the celestial realm, but if she
before
she
the fairy godmother,
if she flakes out, even with Janelle, he doesn't get a planet. Like I said, he's going to be, you know, he's going to be asking if you want fries with that at the Celestial Arby's drive-thru, and that's all he deserves.
So
if Christine gets released and Janelle gets released, and all he has is Robin, he doesn't even get to be the man. He doesn't get the Arby's. He's not even going to be the night manager. He's going to be the guy dipping the fries. And I love that for him.
I immediately pictured, you know, one of those fast food restaurants in Rick and Morty, you know, where they're going to and they're just having like these green and pink burgers and stuff like that. Anyway, so there's
pork.
So you see the why it would be important to like actually hear from church leaders, and how TLC is like, oh, that might offend a certain segment of our audience. Let's not do that. Or worse, it might affect some of the main cast. So, but it was interesting that. So I talked to.
Don't want to talk to them. There have been some that have done documentaries, but very few have been amongst the leadership.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Because they don't
want to talk about that.
I mean, there's just a lot of, you know.
And they're on tape.
A lot of
you can
stuff
point
that's
to the
gone
tape
down, and like particularly with the AUB, it is no longer classified as a religion. They're not tax exempt.
Oh, sucks to be you, AUB.
Yep.
So it's weird that Mary. So we move on to Mary just talking about her mind being blown. So Hillary confronts Mary and says that you would still go back to Cody. There's still a part of you that would do that. And
that she wants her to get to a place where she won't.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's.
It
takes a long time. We all get there. I remember reading. There have been several like self-help books, and one of the things that stuck with me is that they say it takes as long as you were about half the time you were in a relationship to fully recover from a relationship, which when you're dating and it's been a year, 6 months. When you've been with somebody for 33 years, regardless of how bad the last 10 were, she's not going to take 15 years to get over it, of course, but she sure as heck isn't going to get over it in 15 minutes either.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about the wives is that of them, Mary clearly has like the most trauma. Like she's had siblings die. She is now the oldest living sibling. And she's had...
Her father was apparently quite abusive.
Yeah, I mean...
Towards the kids and towards Mary's mom, who was the first wife.
Yeah, I mean, you've read more about that than I have, but I'm just like, I feel bad for her in a lot of ways, but it's funny too, because they get towards the end of this, they do cut up this conversation. It's probably went on for a couple hours, but they cut it into part 1 and part 2. So they flip back and forth a little bit, but... Mary says it was a good time with Cody. So we're kind of doing this semi-linearly here, where she says it was still a good time with Cody, you know, even though for 10 years they weren't really, they were more like roommates,
you know,
or friends.
If Mary had been able to have children, because this is the other part of it too.
Yeah.
If you are in one of these religious sects, let's leave the word cults out for now, that puts a high value on fertility, because every child is sent to you by God. So if God is only sending you one child or sending you no child, there's this unspoken you're less than.
Yeah.
And we saw it come out in this series. I almost feel like what we're doing here right now is less about this particular episode, is using this episode to talk about the entire series.
Well, we got to do both. You always have to do both.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
As for your intro, whatever. But if Mary had a lot of kids, Mary would still rule Cody's world.
She would. She would
absolutely rule Cody's world. And also, he probably wouldn't have gotten together with Robin.
Yeah.
He'd have had an affair with Robin if he ran into her. But, you know, because could you imagine 13 kids and then add another 5, you know, 18 kids? And they did. They added 5 with Robin, but the 18 kids, that's a lot. He cannot handle that. He would not have been able to
Which is why he spins stories that makes he spins stories that makes it simpler for him to handle. He says all his problems with the kids are his wife's fault. So instead of addressing each one of the 18 individual kids, he only needs to deal with 4.
So, I mean, Mary made a lot of... That's the other thing, too. He because he's 12. I never really loved you. I loved you, but I was in love with you.
I never loved you.
I was just performing. Really? Because dude can't act. I mean, and these inserts that they're doing that aren't, you know, that weren't organic, that they're like, oh, we're going to put this in after the fact so people hate Cody and Robin less. If you look at the first few seasons, Jesus, when they're getting ready to have the party for Cody and Robin's wedding, I think he would have, if he had a half of a chance, he would have asked Mariah to take the cameraman out of the room and done it right then and there with Mary. There was a lot of... No.
With
Mary?
There
was a lot... Yes, there was a lot of heat between those two.
Oh, right.
And then
yes.
Even going into
when they were getting...
When
Mary was getting dressed.
It's like, and this is where Leon decided, maybe I don't want to have a man 24/7, which is why, you know, Leon at the time was the only child who was like, oh yeah, I'll do... Yeah. I do polygamy because...
Leon had like this real icky face.
Like, really? Right here, right now? But, you know, there's like, I don't know, other seasons are weird.
Yeah.
But a year into Vegas, because I think they were still at the rentals in Vegas, the rentals in Vegas. Cody was saying, Mary's my soulmate. Mary's my best friend. We're like brothers and sisters, and sometimes we fight, but she's really adventurous. All of these things. Cody's a liar, and Cody will put up a front. He definitely fronts. He definitely wants people to see him in his stupid little, I have a small penis car, and he's all metrosexual because he wants to be like Duran or whatever his craziness is.
Sports car, I'm definitely not balding,
underneath
blah, blah, blah.
that, there was real affection, at least with Mary, and definitely with Janelle. Christine, I think, was always an iffy thing, but I think Christine was in very many ways his scapegoat. He saw Christine as a path to quick advancement in this new religion, something that would take him past his own father, because that was a big deal for him, because his father was a piece of garbage too, who thought Cody was worthless. He did not approve of the way Cody was running his marriages, apparently. Wynn dies.
I wonder why.
Wynn dies, and suddenly, oh... He only had 20 years with Janelle's mom. You need to be with the person you love. Wynn dies, and he has no one to prove he is better than. Wynn dies, and he had more wives and more children, so he already won over his dad.
Right.
And when you take that out, he's just... The point being, whether he married them all because he was madly in love with them, and I don't think they ever said that he was. You know, he loved them. They decided they had a testimony. They were committed to this marriage. But the love was real. Yeah. Christine had a crush on him. He had a little crush on Christine, but he liked her pedigree more, and then there's all the manipulation with the minor and all that nonsense. But they both even said they really, really fell in love during that first year. And I believe it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think they were a good unit, and they were really focused on... They had way too many kids all at once, but, you know.
Cody has the emotional maturity of a day-old Krispy Kreme jelly donut.
Which makes him good, but, you know...
He's not complex. He doesn't understand. For all he talks about nuances, and
which made him good with the kids. I mean, that's the thing. For when they were still little.
To take from Cody, raising the kids was easy because he didn't have to do the hard work.
Yeah.
The minute those kids had any autonomy, he couldn't handle it because he wanted nothing but unquestioning love and devotion. And when he didn't get it, he couldn't handle it. So with Mary sealed her own fate with Robin. If we don't believe some of the rumors that he may have met Robin on one of his jaunts down to St. George to see Nathan or to do his business.
We think the early timeline as it's been presented in the show is not entirely accurate.
It's full of crap. But Robin is definitely Mary 2.0 because Cody is so immature.
Right.
Because Cody is such a child.
Right.
I'm so in love with Robin. I love having sex with Robin. This is true love. Well, if this is true love, then that must have been true love what I had with Mary 20 years ago and don't fully remember. And now we've had 10 years of difficulties with children and her
now that we're having fights and you're not giving me kids and all these things that I deserve,
Robin,
maybe I don't like you as much.
One of the reasons why I think Robin looks as miserable as she looks all the time is she's not a brilliant person, but she's also not a dumb person. She's very cagey. She understands how to survive, and she knows, well, now I can't give him any more children, and now he can't be a bishop in the priesthood, and now he can't do this, that, and the other thing, and I have to be with him 24/7.
Yeah.
we'll find out how things would have gone for Mary and Cody if they'd been monogamous, because we're going to watch it play out with Robin and Cody.
This is a little petty, but we do notice. If you ever notice how Robin always has this face, this very sad face. We're
I can't do it.
We could be do the sad face
like Beaker.
Yeah, like Beaker. It's like you are a millionaire. Okay, let's just face facts.
Sort of.
Come on.
You have access to an F ton of money, you should never have to worry about things again, except that you continually spend beyond what you have.
Sarah from Reality Squad assessed how much those art prints are worth that they must have spent on that.
Not worth, how much
did they spend, and it was like $150,000. So I think that there is no shortage of money.
Of which, if they're lucky, they might get 10,000.
Yeah, if they're lucky, maybe 10,000. Michelle's walking out of the room. I'll just go fly solo for a bit. She'll come back. But this brings in other issues, like the economics once again comes into play. Like Isabel's surgery, $50,000. They spend $150,000 on art prints.
Isabella.
What's that?
Did you say Isabella?
Isabel is what I said. So 1/3 of that, and meanwhile you can look up the records because it's open secrets. Cody has donated like $5,000 here and there to political candidates. Stuff when he just poor mouths it up.
I'm not like $15,000 a year.
Isabel needed the surgery. He could have just
he signed the paper that he was going to pay for it, but no. Christine had to get online and say basically, I don't want to do a GoFundMe, but the GoFundMe is to please buy this stuff so my kid could have her surgery.
And meanwhile, he's like talking, it's not that hard, blah, 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 during an earlier season. So, the amount of money that Robin, and that Cody is not buying the art
need to sit
prints.
This close when we do this.
We'll do what I can.
I know you think we're going to put this up, even though I keep on telling you we're not going to, but this one will not go up.
Okay.
This is our test run.
It should go up because we've already gone almost an hour, and this is actually pretty good. This is actually the flow is excellent here. So anyway,
okay. So you guys get to see this.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're in our bedroom. Sorry that it's a mess. Eventually, it will be better. And
it's just life, We guess what? You get to see us warts and all. So that wraps up the Mary half of the episode. We're kind of doing. It's easier to just tell that all at once instead of that. So then the other half of the episode almost is Christine. And she's going wedding dress shopping. Obviously, they already got married. We've seen the special. But this is
a story of how they met and fell in love.
Yes, exactly.
And I realize we live in a spoiler world now. But guess what? The journey should be as interesting as the destination.
Melanie and Corey, notes to self 444, so awesome. They are probably the best people to be covering this. So they're actually coming in a little bit later, but they have all the inside dirt.
AUB, Melanie's father is the current prophet.
Yes.
He left young.
Mm-hmm.
She left
Corey
young.
did. Corey
left young.
Yes, not her dad.
And not fully of his own volition.
Right.
She got married at 17, barely 17.
Yep.
She left in her early 20s, went back to him, and then she finally left for good. In her mid-20s, she and Corey have been like sort of in recovery and what have you. But what's interesting, what they bring to it, and they are very late coming to the game, later even than us, what they bring to it is that she grew up in Salt Lake with Mary, with Christine, with a lot of the same people.
And Corey grew up with Robin.
One of her bonus moms was the daughter of Mitch Aspen's husband's grandmother. It's all very intertwined, so they know each other. A lot of her family members were at some of the early events we saw for the Browns. She was at Mary and Cody's wedding. She, knew Christine and that family really well. In the meantime, she and her husband work in realty, and they've worked with Janelle when Janelle was doing realty in Vegas. We don't see a lot of her actually doing it, but she was actually, she was working in real estate a lot more than we saw, and they had worked together. Where Corey, the husband, he grew up in Pinesdale, which is the same AUB compound that Robin and her bio dad and mom she was born into. Then the bio dad, he took off for another wife. I don't know what happened there. And then Alice married Paul Sullivan. So he grew up with Robin down the street. He was friends with some of Robin's brothers. and he was friends with Robin's ex-husband and ex-husband's brothers.
Right.
So he apparently, when the show came out and he saw she was going to be part of the family, he was like, "Oh, this is not going to go well." And he wasn't wrong.
Right.
So they bring this person. They don't pretend that they know everything.
Right.
They're bringing their own perspective from their own experiences, but they're also bringing some of that perspective from, well, I was there and saw this, or my father was there and saw this. So they have a lot of insight, and they've clarified a lot of things. A lot of us are like, well, what's the story there? Like Robin Shelby said she grew up in polygamy, but the impression was because her mother married Paul Sullivan as a second wife and had their honeymoon experience and had a different, everyone's like, oh, well, she was just like the mistress and they weren't really polygamous. And it turns out, no, actually, they grew up in polygamy. Paul Sullivan did convert to it. This woman, Melanie's mom, knows Alice, and she knows Paul's first wife. So we get a lot, it's really like, oh. So when Robin popped off with, well, you know what my bio dad did, and he wasn't there, and he didn't do the right thing. That is the first time she has ever said squat about that.
It took until season 19 for her to bring up her own family.
I think people who aren't crazy, people who have lives and don't spend their time on Reddit and watching all this stuff on YouTube, they were just like, oh, well, all Robin knew was her mom's marriage to Paul Sullivan, but that's not true.
Right.
She actually did grow up full bore in a polygamous family. She knew what she was doing, and also, this was the tidbit, she was 21 when she got knocked up. He was 19. All of this, he stole my purity.
Yeah.
And
who was the older one who had more, life experience?
It doesn't hold water with the people who actually know them. And the opinion seems to be amongst these former AUB people who knew them that Robin grew up in the school of Alice. Alice knew how to keep Paul happy. Robin did the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. Robin is very much a certain stereotype of a wife who comes in and recognizes, I've got this power over this man, and I can use it to ensure my security, my children's security, and as long as I keep him happy, I'm going to make sure that my needs are met. And if their needs aren't met, too bad on them. They could be doing the same thing. That's what that whole the best customer.
Yeah, and Corey and Melanie get into that, and so we don't need to spoil too much of what they say, but so
you really should check them out. They're great.
They are good. So Christine goes wedding dress shopping, and this is basically free advertising practically for Say Yes to the Dress and the Kleinfelds and
not really. I mean, but definitely for that boutique she was in.
But you get the idea. I'm talking about the programming.
Yeah, if you watch Best to the Dress, Say Yes to the Dress, this is like the most. It is fun though. It is fun to watch Christine get to try on the dresses, and then she tries on the silhouette that looks great on her, and she hates it. And she gets the ugly one, and she thinks it's great, which is just a fancier version of the one she had the first time.
Yeah, but I suffer from Y chromosome disorder, so maybe I don't like it as much.
Annie and with David's mom.
Yeah, they brought in like 25. I was counting. It was like 25 people, and so whatever that boutique is, you got your advertising, and clearly I don't remember what you.
Well, we have to turn this around. We have to make her own dress. We have to turn around in
45 days.
This is super fast. And it's like, hey, guess what? They don't have good track records with having people make themselves custom stuff on the flatter.
We're very happy for you, Christine. She's
and we
the
love
best.
David, and we don't think that you were moving too fast.
Yeah, I have some comments on that.
We don't think you're a lousy parent because you very clearly are not, and you very clearly are talking to these girls.
Yeah.
And if David was a horrible person, I am sure you would not be with him. But just because they're saying it's too fast, well, I'm sorry, but they were all fast too.
Yeah. Yep.
So really.
Speaking of fast too, McKelty has some opinions about this. So if you remember from some of the earlier seasons, I want to say season 2 maybe or season 3, she was looking to get into fashion and being a fashion designer.
Yeah, she actually graduated high school a little early because she was taking college courses.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. There are some smarts to be had in the Brown family. And so it's just kind of sad.
Short on common sense.
So she has opinions, and she does tend to suck the oxygen out of the room a little bit. But she basically says that, basically what I want mom to have is a dress that's sexy, a dress that's elegant, and that fits her well. And unfortunately, that's pretty much a cliche.
She looked radiantly beautiful. David was...
It was a beautiful and fun wedding. It was. Yeah, it was one of their best episodes.
It's me. I think people. I have a thing about my own self and how I dress. So of course I project it onto everybody else. So I realize it's me, but even so, girl,
people have opinions about
what not to wear.
What not to wear. There's a reason why shows like that are popular. So then during one of the fittings, I had to point out a couple of things.
She's radiant though. Even a garbage bag,
she's so happy,
totally
and she could, what's that phrase? You could sell a freezer to an Inuit.
Eskimo. Her happiness and her vivacity shine through, and I am so happy for it. And it doesn't matter if I don't like her dress.
She is full of life. So
she's just happy. And that's fabulous.
So she tries on one of the dresses, and McKelty says, well, your vagina looks great in that, or something.
Now we know where your vagina is. And there's a big lace triangular applique pointing at it.
Yeah, and then Christine says, is this a vagina dress?
If you watch the what not to wear, the dress thing.
Say yes to the dress.
Yeah, that happens so often with these silly...
and it's just like people, you're coming out in your underwear with a dress over that, and some of that's going to be see-through. Obviously, they're putting on appliques and stuff like that. They're just trying to get you to get the sense of the shape of the dress. Right. But then we get the moment that if you've ever seen those, I forget what the meme is called, but like the one's pointing like this, oh my God, the other one's like, oh, those cartoons of those two guys. Here was my moment for that. No. It's just a couple of guys, like cartoon guys with like scraggly hair. They're pointing like this. Oh, did you see this? Here was my moment for that. Robin, they cut to Robin in the confessional, and she talks about how wonderful and special it is to pick out your dress for your wedding day. And I'm like, it was great that one time you did that, wasn't it?
Where you took the women out and pretended like you didn't have a dress.
Yes.
Now, granted, to be fair, the actual reason that was given to us for the outing was to find dresses for the ladies, not necessarily for Robin.
But then Robin starts putting on dresses, and they act like,
and that's fun. And then Cody has to be,
I got a secret.
I should get to be. That was the best thing about Tony. The best thing, because I don't like Tony either. But honestly, he was such a prima donna during that wedding, and Cody couldn't say squat. Because he was saying the exact same things. I should get to pick out the dress. It's my day too.
Tony and McKelty,
I should get to have all the special stuff too. And when Tony pulled that, I was waiting. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Because we found it via YouTube last summer, and then of course we had to go back and watch it from the beginning.
Yeah, but Robin,
done a couple trips
Robin with your first husband, yes, that I'm sure that was very special. But you can't say that with Cody because Cody picked the dress.
Picked the dress.
So.
And you wore it because she knows that her bread is buttered by making Cody feel like he is the brightest, most wonderful, most loving, most this, most that, most the other thing. Whether she felt it or not, I don't know. I'm not. I was like, oh, they really love each other. I don't know about that either.
Yeah, I think Cody. I think Cody loves her.
Cody's in love with the idea of being in love with her. He's in love with the idea of being her hero, and that's why everything that goes wrong, he blows up and he makes it like it's a dragon, dude. It's an iguana. Get over it.
So then did you want to talk about the rumor that maybe Cody and Robin are going to do a recommitment ceremony?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about it. And people have been theorizing that since last year.
This is on Reddit, probably.
So now that he's like asking her to continue his marriage and monogamy, I guess people are assuming that means, or maybe there's been a news report and I haven't seen it.
Sure.
That they're going to do like a new ceremony. So that's going to be 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they had their 4 really when you think about it, because they had their celestial marriage was inside the temple, or whatever they call it, in the AUV, the Covenant House, or whatever. And then they had the wedding reception-y, like wedding thing, where she got to have the dress, because you don't wear those dresses.
It's not enough to have more than one wife. You also have to have more nuptials than you have wives. So then they had their private legal marriage, and they had their own photographer. And the only reason why we got to see some of it was because people just happened to be randomly there and recognize them, and that freaking kills me. Yeah.
That is so funny. But, so people are like, oh, they're going to have another commitment ceremony. I kind of hope they do, because what I have seen in my life is that when you actually, for the most part, 75 times out of 100, probably even more than that, recommitment ceremonies or remarriages, especially if they come after a difficult time, that's like the nail in the coffin for the divorce.
So
not always. A lot of people, it's like, well, we just had this civil, we were going to do this. We had a civil ceremony, and we had it in advance of when we wanted to get married because of legal things. And then something happened. We weren't able to have our big wedding that year.
Yeah, she got sick. So
I got sick. So there are those planned ones. That is it. That isn't what I'm talking about. You got married in Vegas and you had the wedding at home, but that was always the plan.
Yeah, you're talking about the plan. Yeah.
This is just like let's just recommit.
Yeah.
I want to know God's my wingman, and that no one will take you from me. Nobody wants her.
We should talk a little bit about how we suspect that Cody and Robin were sealed. Then they had the public ceremony, but then they get legally married, and then after that they've had another little they had the thing in the park, just the two of them. Remember that? No. They were like both went out, and they seemed to have done something after that. After they legally got married.
Yeah, they went. All right,
yeah, remember his hair was tied back and it
there
came
were
down.
Photographs of them.
No. Well,
there were
okay.
Photographs of like that day that they had professionally taken. But
there was. We'll find it. No.
About their commitment ceremony for the family.
No, I'm talking about another one. Like I think it was after the divorce, and they just on their own, the two of them.
They
They
get their legal marriage,
right?
And then they drove someplace where people took pictures of them against the sunset.
No, it wasn't just that.
They went on a honeymoon. They went on another honeymoon.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the two of them, like kind of like in a park or in a field or something like that. It wasn't just random photos of them up against the sunset, anything like that. We'll find it later on.
I don't believe you, so.
Okay. That's fine. So getting back to Christine and David, they start talking. So David is not there for the vagina dress. It's just the ladies. But David and the rest do this cake tasting, and again talking about the money before and after. Like they decide to they go cake tasting, and they can't decide between like the white chocolate, the carrot cake, and what else. So and the almond whatever.
And the chocolate, yeah.
And
chocolate, I thought.
The German chocolate. But anyway. They just decide to order 3 large cakes, and then they ask if they're gonna have a groom's cake, which is just like, okay, whatever.
He's just like, what? Just get them all.
He's just get them all.
That's what you want? Great, let's do it.
Nice to have that money, right? That TLC money.
Yeah. So, well, I'm not sure.
I mean, he's got money too, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think that a lot of they did get paid for doing the TLC bonus for a wedding.
Sure.
But David was willing to buy a house with her. Right off the bat.
Right.
He, like she said, if she wants to have something done, boom, he does it. David is just, he would have been happy. He said he would have been happy going in, like eloping into Vegas.
Sure. I'm just saying that the fact that they can afford that without any question, and hundreds of people.
And that he's willing to spend it on her, because Cody never would have.
Yeah, and who knows, how much of TLC is paying for this directly.
Yeah, but the TLC gives him $10K. $10K did not cover that wedding.
So my note here at the top next is that Christina's on crack. Mainly she's just very happy, and she's very much like got very like real teenager energy, and so just basically it's
driving people nuts. But I go back to what I said before. She and Mary were raised in a very, very sheltered kind of experience in terms of they didn't go to proms, they didn't get to dress up, they didn't get to be the bells of the ball, they didn't have boys fawning all over them, they didn't have a bunch of boyfriends. For Christine, this is her second boyfriend.
Yeah.
This is the second man she's kissed. This is the second man she's had sex with.
And it seems like...
And he loves
He
her.
does.
And she has all the emotional maturity at this particular moment.
She's giddy.
Of a young girl, but shouldn't you?
That's a positive... Absolutely.
Shouldn't it make you
It's
silly?
a positive thing. It's just an observation. So it's not a value judgment, but she's just very like energetic and it's effervescent. So... And then
that's another reason why no one will ever see this, honey. I hate my hair.
Okay. So Truly is hilarious and funny in this episode.
Always.
Yeah, she talks about
Truly's the MVP.
They were talking about a groom's cake, and I think it was Aspen said
McKelty,
yeah.
Make it shaped like boobs.
Yeah, make it shaped like make it a boob cake, and then they say, well, we couldn't have that's for the bachelor party, and then Truly's like, it could be your boobs. Yeah, ha ha ha, so once again she wins the episode. I feel bad because Isabella feels a lot like the oxygen is sucked out of the room, and Isabella there? She was there, but she's I
remember seeing McKelty. Yeah, I guess you're right. It was Aspen, McKelty, Isabella,
but we don't see too much of her, and I feel like sometimes she gets a little lost in the crowd, which is sad because
I think she's she and McKelty have a similar level of damage, I think, but handle it in a different way. both of them really wanted to have a strong relationship with their dad.
Yeah.
And their dad's an asshole.
Yeah.
And the Kelty's way, and first she was the rebellious one, she's going to do what she wants, she's going to say what she wants. And then she became I'm going to be the peacemaker, I'm going to be the bridge. And with Isabel, she just wanted Daddy to care about her. And he let her down time and time again. And it's not about, and it never, here's the, it's not about Isabel, but that's part of the problem, because it's never about Isabel.
Yeah.
He didn't know how old she was at her graduation birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
He, you know.
Sweet 16? Oh, sweet 18.
Ooh, yeah. Do you know how old the kid is? What? She just graduated high school. Do you know how old people are when they graduate high school? You didn't grow up in this life. You should know. You graduated.
Right.
But, you know, she just, I think she was very hurt when he's like, well, I've got to take care of my family. And she's like, well, aren't I family? And
aren't I family?
Are you, you know, she can fly by herself. Are you going to be a bitter old lady because your daddy couldn't be there? He didn't even see her during her recovery.
No.
He's garbage.
No. He's not a good person. She
wants a strong relationship with her dad. She is afraid because her dad has punished Christine's children because he was mad at Christine.
Yep.
And he always did, even before she left. She has that fear that he's just going to wash his hands because, you know what, he's not saying truly either. And it's not that she doesn't like David. It's that she wishes her father could be to her what David is to his children, and what David offers as a person of support, not a replacement for your father, but another adult male authority figure who could be a role model for you, support for you.
Earlier in the season, they kind of went over that. Christine was giving her that speech. So we see a little bit of Janelle, and Janelle talks about how she was ostracized from a lot of her family, shunned or estranged, I guess, when she married Cody. And so we get to hear a little bit of that. We might have heard some rumblings of that in earlier seasons, but I don't really remember that.
She did mention it before.
She probably did, yeah, but it's not been an ongoing theme. We don't hear as much about Janelle and her family, so that was an interesting peek behind the curtain, because she was raised, you know, LDS, and then she converted to this polygamous sect. She talks about wearing just a green dress, so she didn't have that, but she's very, you know, matter of fact about it.
She's fine. I mean, she did have a regular wedding before when she married Mary's brother. She made him convert to LDS.
So that's about all we get out of Janelle, and that's fine. I mean, I could listen to Janelle all day. You know, I think she's great, but I didn't feel like she was, you know, overlooked or anything like that. Once again, she's coming in very strong, very pragmatic.
Right.
So then we come to Robin and Brianna and Aurora. So again, Cody just leaves the house with the little kids, and then the women set behind. Now this is obviously a setup. You can tell that they've already had this conversation. They've talked about what they're going to talk about in advance.
And yet somehow Brianna was still terrified.
Brianna looks scared, nervous, anxious. Like I've had that look before, and it's really sad seeing that look, you know, in one of Robin's kids. Like, she shouldn't be scared. And, you know, I've got my own views about how, like, Robin is kind of like a bit of a control freak. So Brianna is super far away, so I don't know how much of this is, well, you sit here for this so the cameraman can get an easy shot, and it, you know, this, like I say, it's staged, but that's fine. Robin claims to miss the community, so she spent all of this time estranging people, you know, locking, you know, the kids away from everybody else, not inviting Mary over, but now that Mary's gone, now she misses community.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she ever wanted to be the only wife. I think she really did want to be the favorite wife.
Yeah, but
I think her expectation was once these old cows stop breeding, they'll understand that that's just the way it works because that's the way it's supposed to be, and they didn't.
And she effed around and she found out, you know. So
I don't want to use that in anything.
So Robin went to a church school. We learned that she worries about the kids not having a church. Now she's worrying about that, I should say.
Right.
And Robin says that doing scripture as a family was not great. Who led the scripture as a family? Cody.
Yeah,
so nice little burn to Cody there. It's then Robin says Cody had some strong feelings about church. In other words,
our church, about the church, the AUB. She was specifically talking about his resentment to the AUB.
So then, interestingly, Aurora, and this is something we've seen, I think, in some of the previews, that Aurora mentions that she went to a Buddhism class, and that inspired her desire for religion and a desire for community.
Spirituality in her life.
Spirituality in her life. And we're still not getting a whole lot of this is where confessionals with these older kids would actually help out, where we could find out, well, what is it you believe?
They only try them out to cry and defend Robin.
Or to talk about, are you going to be a polygamist? And it's getting a little tired. You know, it'd be nice to...
And that's what Robin had said. It's like, well, none of the churches around here support polygamy. And Aurora's like, yeah, I don't have a testimony to polygamy.
Yeah.
Like you and Dad. I don't.
Yeah.
And I think Brianna just flat out doesn't either, but it's like she was afraid to say that. Oh, I have conflicted feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I think she doesn't have Cody, I don't think my kids are going to be polygamous. You know, my daughters, maybe if they want to marry a married man, because of course the women would be looking for all the resources they could get. Yeah. But then when he's talking about it, it's like, I don't think my son.
If it's the boys, they probably, who knows? Yeah, I didn't want that, you know. And it's like, it's like, well, if they do, boys will be boys. You know, again, that same double standard.
They think they don't until they want to have another woman.
Yeah, and then, oh boy, you're being an idiot with this polygamy thing, but I'll tell you some wild stories. So Brianna says she wants a boy, somebody who aligns with her life goals. And, well, you know, my question that I wrote down here is, what is Brianna's life goal? This would be...
out of the house. Leave this house.
This would be a good time to actually have a confessional, to have a talking head where you are discussing, what are your life goals? What are you doing this?
These girls are both old enough to vote.
Yeah.
And Aurora at least is old enough to drink. I don't know why they need to ask for their mother's support in this.
Well, this is where it comes down to, like, how controlling is Robin, you know, because it seems like these girls are not independent at all, which is sad. So Robin declares to the camera that her girls have traditional values. Okay, it would be nice to hear it from them, you know, but Robin's doing a lot of talking for other people. Neither of the girls want... What's that?
It's typical.
Yeah. Neither of them want polygamy. Robin blames them not wanting polygamy on what happened with the family. It's like, maybe you should talk to the other girls who also did not want polygamy. None of them have wanted polygamy.
It's
none of the boys either, frankly.
It's almost like a callback to the kerfluffle about the Christmas list the previous year, where Robin comes on the chat and it's like, well, we need to do this on video, and it's like, look, we're on the East Coast. It's like 3 hours different here. We need to go to bed. Right. And Robin's like, and then my kids were even saying, you weren't good to us, and you didn't accept us, and now we don't even want to get married at all.
Right.
So to me, saying that is going back to that.
Right. So they talk about going church shopping, which is hilarious because, you know, Robin has talked about how money is for spending and stuff like that. So of course that's the analogy.
Yeah,
not auditioning, not at church hopping, but church shopping.
On QVC?
Yeah,
she'd probably be there.
Exactly. So Robin says that Brianna wants to find a church and sets up. So this sets up that there's something coming up in an upcoming episode about that, which to me is like, notice Aurora also said that, but she's only focusing in on Brianna. So apparently Brianna will probably have found the church next episode. She says, Brianna says that she's so excited about this, but she's also got like this like little hostage smile on her face, like she looks scared. Yeah, she looks really scared. And just noticing that when Cody is responding in the confessional, Cody gets too much airtime in this show, frankly. But I guess he feels he's the spoke. Yeah, it's more or less, right? Like, without him, it's not going to happen. But notice that Cody's actually flexible, because Robin just says she's going to do it, and he's not going to lay down the law with her. So then Robin says, I know you're interested in dating, but you shouldn't go to church for that. But then at the same time, she says, well, you should find a boy who shares your values, straight to Brianna. And like, where else are you going to find that? Are you going to find it just randomly picking people out of a hat? No, you're going to find it at the church. And best.
Right, and didn't, if I remember correctly, the first time Robin claims that she saw Cody was during a church service. During a church service.
Wow. Funny how that worked out, right? So anyway, they're talking about that, and then but meanwhile, like, of course Robin presents like this false choice, but also is like, tutting the girls for, their choices. And this is like, come on, they're young girls, you want them to be happy, allegedly, blah blah blah. Again, it comes back to this idea that she's a control
she
freak.
thinks that you should find your first boyfriend by finding out who your sister likes and going after him and getting pregnant. Work for her.
So anyway, I have this quote.
How do you know of a boy's qualities? Somebody who you think well of wants them. Okay, I'll take that one.
So Robin says she feels like my future disappeared. Okay, like, what you mean, you being as the last wife standing and having access to all of this money and blah 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 blah, whatever, and
she's the idiot who got left behind.
Yeah, so anyway, this is not an episode centered around Coyote Pass and the real estate finances. Yeah, thank God, right? But what's interesting is, like, you actually are in pretty good shape, pretty good position. So the Coyote Pass thing is still not resolved as far as who's getting what parcels of land, and we did kind of need a break from that, I think.
Yeah.
But I think that it was, with Robin saying my future disappeared, it's like, this would be another time to get a good follow-up question, but follow-up questions are not always on the porch with my sister wives. You know what you do? When you don't get to have sister wives, you make friends. You get out of the house, you make friends, and once again, we don't see Robin's friends. We don't see anything like that.
Last time Robin had a friend, Mary got catfished. So
yeah.
I'm not saying Robin planned it. I don't think that Robin planned it.
There's a whole other separate storyline. We'll probably touch on all this stuff.
Yeah, we'll do
on all this stuff.
Yeah.
So only Mary's talking with Robin now, and Robin says she really hopes that Christine is happy, and it's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe a word you have just said. She's got all of the tells when she is lying, just and then thinking like this with her eyes up in the air. It's like, there's no believing that, and she mumbles a lot more when she's saying something that she doesn't want to believe. So, okay, finally we get back a little bit to Cody acting like he can't both be interested in Christine and her new life and also have a good time with his relationship with Robin.
Which I think that says a lot about how they got here in the first place.
Yeah, like hello, you can have your cake and eat it too.
You're not having sex with those other wives, are you? You said you love me best.
Yeah.
They're not making babies for you, so you shouldn't be having sex with them because sex is only for babies.
Yeah.
Which is, even though I had sex when I wasn't married, I had a baby from it.
Yep. So I have a few things. I mean, they get into the naked cake, partial cake. We're back to Christine here, talking about a naked cake, partial frosting, bear cake, and when the words naked cake come up, like David's face, just like Christine's, goes beet red because he's embarrassed. So I just have a few other notes here. They agree not to, I did want to mention this. They agree that they're not going to smash the cake in each other's faces.
This has been a thing since series season 1.
Man, woman, non-binary, whatever. Let me tell you.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. It's stupid. I read this advice column once where a wife was asking if she was overreacting because she wanted to leave her husband because she specifically asked him not to do that, and he did it anyway at the wedding.
If you're going to leave somebody because they smush stuff in your face, then you should not be married to that person.
Well, that should
not be your deal breaker.
Well, the thing was, they had agreed to it.
Doesn't matter. That should not be your deal breaker.
I think she was well within her rights, and I agree.
She could be mad, but to give up the entire wedding,
to me, it shows disrespect. It's a thing, but I know we can disagree, whatever. But so Cody. So finally, we're going to get into the scenes for next week. I just have one more thing on the notes for this episode. Cody angrily talks about how Christine said that Cody has a soulmate in Robin, and he's like, "I
was real mad when she told her kids some of Janelle's kids that."
But now,
now
I'm inclined to accept it. But see, the way he phrases it is, it's not clear if he's inclined to accept that Christine is looking for her soulmate and finds it in David, or if he's now inclined to accept that Cody has a soulmate in Robin. I think it's the latter.
More inclined to accept she wasn't being a bitch when she said that she was making an observation. But what's interesting, and I'd have to go back and pay attention, but I don't think he has ever said that Robin is his soulmate. Robin has said that he was her soulmate, like, from the get-go.
Episode 1, I think, or 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, episode 2. I think the only person that Cody has called his soulmate is Mary.
Right. Right.
I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back and check, but I'm pretty certain.
And isn't that a tell?
It isn't that a tell.
Mm-hmm. So scenes for next week. We're gonna have Cody in the episode again, and he's having a dinner of some sort with Robin. And I guess they're talking. They have to have this big build up to whether or not they're actually going to go to church. So they have to have this dinner set up where he talks about God has been my wingman. He's telling this to Robin.
I need to know
that God has been my wingman, and no one can take you away, Robin. So it's just like,
I think a little part of her dies whenever he says things like that.
But
She's like, I'm never getting out of this.
But no one can take you away. It's interesting, right? Because there's now Cody is jealous. Right now, he's starting to finally feel in an episode that kind of reflects back to episode 1 of season 1, where now it's like there's this little hint that he's worried because she's already been married to somebody else, right?
She had all sorts of other
offers. And this is this little insecurity suddenly bubbles up. So that was kind of interesting.
I didn't see this jealousy. I saw it as, after everything I've sacrificed to love you, I want to make sure it's not going to be wasted.
Wasted. I'm really suppressing the urge to do impressions of Cody, but hopefully you'll be lucky that I keep that to a minimum. So then next week, we still have Mary digesting the divorce from Cody. I feel like this is going to be a long thing for Mary. I feel like, it's
because it's a long thing for humans.
It's a long thing for, well, yeah, I mean, I agree. But Christine, she managed to get out the door earlier. I think it's a harder one. And there's no judgment there.
Storyline this season.
Yeah.
She already has the bed and breakfast. This is her storyline.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then, unfortunately, we get my least favorite non-OG person showing up, and it's Peyton. And Peyton, once again, is kind of negging,
He is an OG person.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Not one of the kids, and not one of the adults, is what I'm saying.
Peyton is one of the OG 13.
He's an adult now, but like he's negging on Christine and David. He's being a smart ass, and it's like, just drop the act, dude. All you need.
I liked him better when he was never on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, of like, there's Cody at the bottom, Robin close second, but then Peyton in terms of like people I don't like on the show. So.
Really, I think I would put Tony above Peyton for people I didn't like.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, but there it is. So anything else we want to touch on? This has been a beta test. So thanks so much for giving us a chance on this. And again, hopefully you found that we had something interesting to say at least. Any last words before we sign off?
Yeah, if you guys, if we alleviated even 2 seconds of your boredom, then, our work here is done. And y'all come back here.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.